part of our journey in public speaking is about finding our voice.
Yeah.
And I think it's fantastic that for you, you've been able to find your voice. Sounds like it started in public speaking, but certainly has continued since then. So tell me a
Yeah.
little bit about the opportunities you've had to speak after you took the class.
I feel like I realized that public speaking was like one of the most important things, especially during my internship, because I realized that like I thought I had kind of like poor to like medium public speaking skills. Like I wasn't as confident, but then I started listening to like other people who were like at Google, and no shade to them, it was just like they weren't as engaged as if like our class was or something like that. And I started realizing that like a lot of people just don't have this skill and they don't practice it enough. And sometimes like their presentation, they have something amazing to share, but it's not articulated in the right ways. And I think that's a really big problem in tech too, because I remember being interviewed, and one of the reasons my manager picked me is because he thought, well, he felt that I was really confident, and he felt that like my speech was just like I knew exactly what I wanted to say and I said it. So that's why that was like one of those decisions. He was like, yeah, I could have got like maybe someone who had more experience than you, but you had the character to like be here. So that's why I wanted you to be here, because you can explain and articulate your ideas to like the team and to overall Google, and that's what they were looking for. So although I may be lacking skills, I'm still gaining them on the job. So
Well, and those are really the things we connect to if we're honest with ourselves, right?
yeah.
We connect to people who are clear in their communication, their message. We're not confused by what they're saying. We can follow and track with them. We know exactly what they're saying. And you also said character, which to me means we get to see who that person is. There's a little bit about them that comes through, that it's not just a canned message or a robotic message. So I love hearing that people at Google for your internship work said, this person is so confident, we want her to communicate. And you're a student, right? You're a college student. They're selected you to publicly share a message in front of their individual audiences, so whoever those people are.
I joined Women in Information Technology. I started out in tech, so for queer students in tech. And what I needed to do the whole time was pitch why my club is so important. My witty club was like, hey, we need someone to talk about cybersecurity. No one talks about cybersecurity, and you're the only person that does cybersecurity in our club. Can you run a workshop? So then I started running these workshops for like students at Rutgers to learn about cybersecurity. And I think another very important public speaking engagement that like just really like put me on like a path is that I took research on election security, and I was the research lead, and I got 5 high school students to help me with it. But these high school students didn't just want to research, they wanted to learn. It was so weird. They would ask me to like, they would say, hey, can you go to a classroom and teach us about cybersecurity, please? So I would run these tiny workshops to help them understand cybersecurity better. And yeah, I like through them, they have really helped me. So not only did I like learn more about election security and publish work, but I learned so much from like those students, and we're still in contact. So I really like those kids.
You're speaking to my heart as an educator too, because me being public speaking professor and having taught leadership at the university level too, that's exactly how I feel. I can't emphasize enough the power of speaking up and empowering others. And it sounds like you've had a very similar experience in developing these workshops.
Yeah.
Public speaking isn't just taking a stage at a podium. Public speaking takes on many forms, from speaking at a team meeting, 10 people, to pitch an idea, or at an internship, teaching a class, teaching workshops.
I guess public speaking can also be like speaking out when you feel uncomfortable about a project or something. One of the things that I was struggling during my internship was expressing that I didn't think this element belonged to my project because there wasn't enough support evidence for it. And I didn't want to tell my manager that. So, and then I realized like I should I should tell him how I feel. You know, I shouldn't be afraid just because he's a manager.
In all healthy relationships, whether it's you're a college student and with a manager or peer to peer, we should be able to speak about things that we're questioning. And I know we wanted to touch a little bit on topic selection because one of my favorite memories with you is actually a topic that you chose. So say a little bit more about the process in class that you went through to pick a topic, and what do you think about choosing topics?
I think picking a topic really has to do with what your interests are and what you're really passionate about. The process for me was just, I was like, okay, well, I'm learning this, I'm learning this. This topic is interesting. So I did it on math. I did it on like women in math, mathematics. And I did it because we don't see a lot of women in math. We don't see a lot of women in STEM. And even now, um, being at a big tech company, you don't see a lot of women on like the super technical engineering teams. So I think there was like a study where like at age 12 to like 15, young girls just give up on math because they're not being called on, they're not being represented, and they don't see themselves in math positions. Most of their teachers are male, um, and they don't feel encouraged to continue doing math. So that's how I picked my project, because I felt really passionate about increasing women in STEM.
And I love that you're focusing this content on young girls and young women in the math fields because of the reasons you mentioned. But you didn't deliver this speech to a room full of college women. You delivered this speech to a room full of college men and women. So how do you engage the male audience in the room that day and not only the women?
Yeah, so I think the way that I engage them is by showing examples of other figures in math. Like they've probably heard of Alan Turing, and all of these other different mathematicians who have, made it, or Fibonacci. I think I actually used the Fibonacci example in my presentation. That's
Yes.
an example of representation of men in math. But then I also not only showed that, but I also showed women in math. So uh, the woman who calculated the black hole picture, like that's representation of math. Or the woman who got us um, to space, that's a woman in math. So I feel like that's how I read the room a little bit, so I can give everyone equal representation in my presentation. I think that's like one of the most important lessons I'm learning at my internship now is reading the room. um, I have a big presentation coming up, and it's the new vice president of my department, and she actually said in like a meeting that she wanted to hear me speak. I needed to really read the room, and I realized that like when you're talking to a VP, that 30-minute presentation is going to have to be cut to like 7 or 10 minutes, because they don't really have 30 minutes to listen to you.
Yes, and let's put a pin on reading the room. I want to come back to that because I want to address this idea too about being concise when you have very little time to give a message. It actually takes a lot more time to make something shorter than it does to take something to make something longer. It's easy to speak on and on and on and on for 30 minutes. If we have 7 minutes, that is much more difficult and requires so much more intentional writing, intentional thinking. Let's come back around now to reading the room, because this is most definitely a high level skill.
Mhm.
When people are speaking, they're so aware of so many things happening in their own body. People can be super hot, they can be ringing in their ears, they can have, like for me, my skin starts to tingle on the outside when I get nervous. I start feeling all kinds of stuff in my belly. So many things are happening, right? Because we're hyper aware of all of these things in our body. To be able to then also have awareness of other people, what was that experience like for you? You're managing yourself and then also having to look at 24 other faces in the room looking at you delivering your message.
So that experience for me was like finding support in the audience and understanding the audience. So what I found most beneficial was reaching out to people who are going to be in the audience and being, or like who have been in my position, and asking them, well, I've never done this. Like I'm gonna be honest, I've never done this. How do I prepare myself for this? So it was really important for me to just ask other people, ask for that support, ask for that guidance, because you can be blinded by just taking care of yourself sometimes, that you don't realize what's outside of that.
And ultimately, it's not about us. It is about delivering a message to our audience. So our audience does need to come first. And of course, we need to take care of ourselves. We need to develop our skills. We need to be present in the moment doing our absolute best, but really it's about them. Am I talking to recent graduates who are in early childhood fields? Are they teachers? Are they administrators? Is it a mix? Or am I talking to people in a particular age group, or is it varied? I have a template of questions I like to find out about the audience and then get as much information as I can. If you could sum up your message in one sentence for the audience, what is the bottom line thing that you want them to take away from your conversation today?
Make it personal, make sure that you're telling the story, make sure you're reading the room, and make sure you're just confident. I think confidence leads to all of these things.
I agree. I agree. Now, let's say you have to put your bottom line message on a t-shirt. So you only have a few words. What does your t-shirt say?
Don't give up on public speaking.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
Emelin, we are all always in a stage of growth, right? Until the day that we die, we should always be learning, always be growing. What's a skill that you're still working on right now in your own speaking or leadership? What's something that you're continuing to work on?
Being now in like a professional setting and explaining technical detail of concepts to non-technical people is really hard to translate. I'm still learning how to bring those technical concepts into storytelling so that people can be engaged to them and remember them. I think that's a really hard skill. I'm still learning.
Excellent. And it is a journey, a lifelong thing. You'll always be developing the strength of storytelling. Let's say you get to go back in time. You're going to talk to your 18-year-old self, but you only have 15 seconds. What do you say?
I think I would tell myself that a lot of people are going to doubt you, and you've never doubted yourself up to this point. So just keep on going. Even for Google, when I got here, I went to a guidance counselor, and she said, maybe you shouldn't apply to Google. You should apply to something else much smaller. And all those little doubts, like I've proven wrong. Like my college like degree and journey has been 100% worth it. I actually did get into Google, so I didn't have to like go lower. I could go as high as I can.
Yeah, that really speaks to a special place in my heart, and it's powerful for people to know that maybe the messages of doubt will be different, the words will be different, but everyone has been in a scenario where people aren't backing you in that moment. But I love that your message would be not to doubt yourself, to keep moving forward. Another area that I think is ultra critical for every single one of us to be aware of is self-care. So I would like to hear from you. What's the most recent thing you did that was just to take good care of you, to have some fun and to enjoy?
When quarantine started, I didn't know what to do, and I wanted to avoid people because we shouldn't be close to each other. So I just bought a bike, and or at first I picked up my old bike and I fixed it, and then I just went biking, and it was just like one of those things where you just get like some time alone, you get to exercise, and you get to just travel a lot faster than walking.
My thought process was so similar. I mean, ever since day one of this urgent situation in our world, I knew if I don't get outside, I'm going to go crazy. Like, you guys will have to come pick me up somewhere because I will go nuts if I don't go outside. So I took myself walking every day, sometimes twice a day for at least an hour, often became 2 hours a day. And then I started doing the biking thing too, and enjoying that in addition to the walking. So I'm with you on that piece. Is there anything that I haven't asked you that you want to share with people listening today?
People who are breaking into new careers, and I've been helping a lot of people who break into new careers too. So this is very telling of just my personal experiences, that like don't be afraid of speaking about your experience, because your experience is very valid. I've met like a lot of wonderful people who are older than me, who have experienced a lot of things more than me, like maybe military, and who've gotten into the same positions I have, but untraditionally. And sometimes I see the lack of confidence in them. I'm like, it's okay. I think you did the first right step, and the next step is just speaking out and letting people know about your experiences, because your experiences are valid. So yeah.
Absolutely, Emelin. I mean, I wish that I could say, oh, after age 24, the confidence, the lack of confidence thing goes away, right?
Yeah.
That doesn't happen to you anymore. It's gone. It's a constant reminder that we need to give ourselves, that also our support systems are able to give us directly. But that's why I really think your message is very powerful, which what you would tell your 18-year-old self is don't doubt yourself. That's something we need to be reminding ourselves of constantly too.
Yeah, I agree.
Awesome. Well, I've loved talking with you today and so exciting to hear about what you've got going on in your world.
Yeah. Thank you for having me.